What up YouTube? How we feeling today? Hope you're doing great, hope you're doing fantastic. Back with another Division 2 video and back with another TU16 build. And man, this might be the best crit skill build ever in the game. This is a very nice combination of the new gear set and a few other pieces. Yes guys, I know the new gear set is fully red, goes full to crit, but man, if we change it to a skill core, this is so much fun to play around with, and it is freaking strong. Of course, everything we changed around with skill cores, and then our skills still do damage. We have a 6 skill tier, we have 53% critical hit chance, and we can get up to that 240% critical hit damage. Yes, you heard it right. 240% critical hit damage, and your skills are flying around, shooting around, taking out all the enemies. Man, this is a blast playing around with it, and this might be my favorite crit skill build. Y'all know I like to still shoot around with my gun even if I'm running around with a skill build, and the combination of this new Umbra set definitely helps out. We all know that the Umbra initiative has a lot of variety. You can build a lot of builds with it. You can go for an AR, you can go for an SMG, you name it. Every single thing in the game is catered towards this Umbra initiative. It might not be the strongest gear set out there, but man, if you ask me, this is one of the most versatile gear sets out there, and I got a lot more coming around the Umbra initiative. But today I'm gonna show you my crit skill build in combination with this new gear set, and man, you need to try this out. This is so much fun to play around with. High crits, high RPM, because that Umbra boosts your crits and of course boost your RPM as well. You can just run and gun, you can sit in the corner if you get hit. In the combination of this build and the Umbra gear set, you will be healed within a few seconds to that max health, to that max armor. You cannot get taken out. You can just run and gun, and if you get hit, if you're almost down, just jump into cover. A few seconds later, you got all your health, all your armor back, and you can go again. And of course, that RPM boosts up even higher. And the combination with this capacitor, man, it is so much fun. But enough intro guys, just like you've seen in the background, a few gameplay clips of me blasting through a mission, and I will jump right into the build. While we explain the build, I will show you a few more clips, so let's dive right in. And like always, we are starting with our specialization. I'm using the technician specialization. Why? Because of course we're getting an extra skill tier, and we're doing a little bit more damage to drones, skill proxies and robotics. That helps out quite a lot if you're fighting the Black Tusk. Next to that, our armor kits also repair friendly skill proxies within 10 meters. So if you're playing with a group, if you're for example taking this build into the legendary mode, you can still heal your friendly skills as well. So let's jump over to the guns that we're using. And for the first gun that we're using, we of course are using the capacitor. This has a total damage of 111.2k, an RPM of 700 and a mag of 41. And this is all without the boosts of this build. I have a full god roll, of course, core attributes, assault rifle damage, damage to armor, and then the other attribute is health damage. Why is this capacitor so great? Because it has the talent capacitance. Shooting enemies builds up a stack of a cap of 40, and each stack grants 1.5% skill damage, and after 5 seconds stacks decay 1 per second. And for each skill tier we're gaining 7.5% weapon damage, and this is why this gun is so freaking great. And again, of course, this boosts up the RPM even higher for that Umbra. We can hit up to that 900 RPM. This is just great. Just like you saw in the gameplay before, you only have to go in cover for a few seconds, shoot down your enemies, and then Whenever you go to the next room, just dive into cover again. Wait a few seconds to get that full stacks of that Umbra back. Go out of cover and just shred through everything. This is so much fun. It's not only the skills flying around or only the skills at shooting your enemies. No, this capacitor does his work as well. Next to that, we're using the harmony. Why the harmony? Because this of course comes with perfectly in sync. If I run out of bullets, that doesn't really happen that often, but if I run out of bullets, I switch over to my harmony. With that perfectly in sync, boosts up my weapon damage and my skill damage as well. And we all know if you shoot with your gun and the drone and or turret or whatever skills you are using are hitting the enemies as well, it doubles it. So getting an extra 40% weapon damage and an extra 40% skill damage, this helps out quite a lot as well. Next to that, we are using the orbit. Why the orbit? I just chose for a pistol. You can go for whatever pistol you want. Just go for a pistol that you do not have proficient yet. This is just a quick and easy way to boost up your expertise level or your proficiency level for your handguns. If you have one proficient, just switch over to another handgun because we're not using that much handguns. So let's jump over to the build, and this is the build, guys. We are using 4 pieces of Umbra, then I went for a Wyvern and with the Memento backpack. So why did we choose for Umbra Initiative? 2 pieces will give you 15% critical hit chance, 3 pieces will get you 30% reload speed, so you're reloading even faster, and this helps out a ton, but we're all doing it for the 4 piece from the shadows and into the light. This gives you 2 talents instead of just 1 talent. And this combination with these talents and then of course with the Memento backpack does so much for your damage output and so much for your survivability. This is just almost the perfect synergy of a skill build, damage with your gun, and survivability. So from the shadows, while in cover, gain 10 stacks per second up to that 50. But because we're running around with that chest piece, we're gaining up to that 100 stacks. Each stacks will give 1% critical hit damage increase and 0.3% RPM. So we're getting a 100% extra critical hit damage and 30% extra RPM. And this is why we can hit up to that 240% critical hit damage, still having that 53% critical hit chance and a full 6 skill tier build, just flying around, shooting around with your skills. This is so much fun. This buff does not apply while shooting from cover. While out of cover, agents lose 2 stacks per second at normal speed and 1 stack per second if sprinting. Then we go into the light. While out of cover and in combat, gain 10 stacks per second up to that 50, and each stacks will give you a 0.8% armor regen when it's consumed, and stacks consumed 10 stacks per second and only in cover. And that's why I just explained, if you dive in cover, if you got hit, if you're almost down, just dive into cover. The combination of that Memento and into the light will kick in and you will get back to full health in a few seconds. This is so good and gives you that survivability that you want, because we are pretty squishy. We're running around with red cores and of course yellow cores. We can be very squishy, but with this combination with Into the Light and the Memento backpack is just godly. It's not only giving you that extra damage output for your skills and for your gun itself, but it also gives you that survivability. And then for my mask, I chose for weapon damage, critical hit damage, and a critical hit damage mod. For my chest, I chose to remove the weapon damage core and chose for a skill core, critical hit chance as an attribute on there, and then 12% critical hit damage as a mod. Then over to my holster, again I chose exactly the same. I went for skill tier and I went for critical hit damage as an attribute. Same for my knee pads, I went for skill tier and critical hit chance. Then I went for a combination of Wyvern. Why Wyvern? Because this gives us an extra skill damage, and I rolled skill damage up there as well. with a combination of critical hit chance. So you have to find 3 pieces with critical hit chance, and the rest can all be critical hit damage. And this is why we are up to that 53% critical chance and to that 240% critical hit damage. This does a lot for you, and man, again, this is one of my favorite crit skill builds to date. Next to that, I went for the Memento backpack. We all know the Memento backpack. This gives us all the cores that the game has to offer. It gives me weapon damage, it gives me armor, and it gives me skill tier. So we do have 1 armor core on there. So that boosts us up to a little above that 900k armor. I chose for the mod 12% critical hit damage. And why is this backpack so good? For kill confirmed. For every trophy that we pick up, we're getting an extra 30% weapon damage, 30% skill efficiency, and 3% armor generation for 5 minutes if we pick up those max stacks of 30. That is pretty quickly, especially if you're running around solo. This is just 1 or 2 rooms of enemies and you have the max stacks of the Memento, and this helps out a lot with your survivability, with your damage output of your gun, and with your damage output of your skills, as the skill efficiency kicks in. Even if you're gonna run and gun, if you pick up a trophy, that short-term buffs kicks in. You're getting a little bit extra bonus armor, you're getting a little bit extra weapon damage, but you're gaining a lot more skill efficiency that gives your skills more damage, more health, everything that the skill tree has to offer. And in my opinion, this is just the best way to go. This is one of the best ways to run this build, in my opinion. You can go for a few other ways as well. You can, for example, get Wyvern away and go for Gruppo to even up your critical hit damage even more. But I thought, I am good with the critical hit damage and the damage output from my gun already, so let's go a little bit more into that skill damage. That's why I chose for Wyvern. If you do not have the Memento, then change to 2 pieces of Brazos the Arquebus. We all know Brazos the Arquebus is the new brand set within the game, and if you choose 2 pieces of that, let me show you with the named item, the Picaro's holster. If you go for that Picaro's holster, as you can see, the first one gives you skill haste. The second one gives you a skill tier. Whenever this Picaro's holster is updated, you will get 15% weapon damage on one of the normal attributes, and then the core attribute will be weapon damage, will be skill tier, will be armor, whatever you like to do. So if you do not have that Memento backpack, I would go for the Picaro's holster and then go, for example, for a backpack of Brazos, and then probably go for combined arms as a talent on there, because we are shooting our gun a lot. This is a crit skill build. This is not a skill build that you can sit in the corner. No, this requires you to shoot your gun as well. And then with combined arms, you're getting a lot more extra skill damage as well. So if you do not have that Memento, I would change the Wyvern and the Memento for 2 pieces of Brazos the Arquebus, because that almost gives you the same boost as the Memento gives. And then maybe go for an armor core on your backpack to make sure that you have the weapon damage core, you have the armor core, and then probably change your mask to a skill core again to still keep your 6 core skills active. Talking about skills, let's get over my skills. I'm using a turret. This hits for 83k, but again, this is without the boosts of my Memento, and this is without the boost of my capacitor. Same as for the drone, this gives me a skill tier 6 drone, and this hits for 52k. Again, without the boost of the capacitor, that's 65% extra skill damage, and without that boost of the Memento, with that extra 30% skill efficiency, that turns into skill damage as well. So if your Memento is procced and if your capacitor is procced at full stacks, you almost gain 100% extra skill damage. So let's jump over to the stats and let me show you guys. As I told you, this is 53% critical hit chance. I always like to build my builds around that 50 to 55% critical hit chance. and then after that stack into critical hit damage. We have a critical hit damage of 135, but because we are running the chest of Umbra, this gives us up to that 100 stack, so we can gain up to that 100% extra critical hit damage, boosting us up to 235% critical hit damage. And this is why you can still shred with your gun while your drone is flying around, while your turret is taking out people. This is so much fun, guys. Next to that, we have an all weapon damage of 85%, again without the memento. We have an armor regeneration of 0 now because my memento isn't proc yet. But let's switch over to the stats of the memento itself. And as you can see, my weapon damage boosted up a lot. Then next to that, if we go over to the all weapon damage, we're gaining an extra 30% of that memento. Going over to my armor regeneration, that was 0, but now is around that 27k armor regeneration, and this is why this gives you a lot of survivability. It doesn't seem that much, but in combination with Into the Light, that other armor regeneration that the Umbra initiative gives you, you will be healed quickly and just stack up those extra critical hit damage and that extra RPM while you heal yourself without using medkits whatsoever. This is freaking great. And I'm gonna show you in the background right now what their skills are doing as well, but as you can see, there's a minus in front of it. I don't know why this is bugged, but yes, your skills go up even higher as well. I don't know if these are the correct numbers. I cannot say for sure, but definitely the memento boosts up your skills as well. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for today. Let me know in the comments down below what you love about this build. Are you building this build, and did you think about this build already? I know that there are a few content creators out there that made a kind of a build like this as well. A huge shout out to them. I didn't steal any builds. I came up with this build with my chat. So a huge shout out to you, Farva, for bringing this to my attention. And we tested it out on stream yesterday and a few days before as well. So if you want to be a part of me making builds, testing out builds with the community, of course, jump over to Twitch where I live stream daily. But that's pretty much it. Are you using this build already, or what would you change to the build? Are you going for 2 pieces of Brazos? Are you going for a little bit more extra damage output, for example with only the Picaro's holster, and then changing a few things away like the Wyvern gloves? Or are you going for Gruppo? There are so many combinations that make this build great. And keep an eye on the channel because I have a lot more builds coming. But that's it. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to smash that like button, hit that subscribers button, and of course that notification bell. PurePrime out!